The defending ACC champion, Florida State Seminoles, can't wait to break down what lies ahead, not only for this Saturday, but this season of Georgia Tech football and another edition of the Brent Key Coaches Show. My name is Andy DeMetra. We are live tonight from New Realm Brewing Company on the east side Beltline of Atlanta. We have packed up the rooftop. Great to see so much white and gold here with us tonight, just like we'll see plenty of white and gold at Aviva Stadium for the Jackets and Seminoles on Saturday. Well, the countdown is officially on, and without further ado, let's welcome in the man himself, set to begin his third season as head coach of your Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. He is Brent Key. Coach, good to see you. Well, I'm going to round up and call it a third.
That's what people think.
I mean, you won some of those games, so you get credit for it.
Right.
I mean, how about that? Good to see you. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
It is going well. I know it's been a very business-like off-season for you and your players, but I know also you have felt that excitement, that energy from the fans, and you can feel it here at New Realm Brewing Company because of what they saw out of your team last year and what that bodes for the future of Georgia Tech football. What has that meant in general as you continue to build your program now, getting set for full year number 2, unofficially year number 3?
Yeah, I mean, we're so insulated with what we do every day and focused on the task we have to accomplish every single day throughout the week, throughout the whole calendar of the year with the development of the kids and the program and whatnot. Very few times do we really get to see what's going on externally. So to be able to come to these things, see the fan support, start to hear people talking about the excitement and doing these types of things and different interviews and hearing people talk about the fans and then seeing the amount of people that are going over to the game. It's a great stage to be on as a program, but not just as a football program, as an athletics program, but as a school for people to really see who we are at Georgia Tech, regardless of sports or not sports.
Well, when last we talked with you guys are polishing off a win in the Gasparilla Bowl to complete a 7-6 season. I know you guys are proud of last year and all that you accomplished, but you weren't satisfied either. Based on what you've seen from your guys since January, what has you confident that this team is poised to take that next step as a program?
Yeah, well, it's funny you bring up last season, 9 months later, but
we haven't had a show in the last 10 months, so we got a little bit of ground to cover.
That's what the video person said today when they showed me the highlight video for Friday night, and it was nothing but a bunch of clips from last season. And I said, I'm not going to either fix it or we're not going to show one because it has nothing to do with last year. But that's sidebar. But we addressed a lot of things in the off season, and just the personality that I have and the people that we have that Jay has. I mean, it's we look for perfection in what we do, and we're going to address those things when they're not. And we've done a good job of adding depth to the roster. I think there's 32 new players on the football team that weren't on the team last year. So you can use last season as a reference, but when you have 32 new players on the team, that's a big difference. So it really restarts every January to rebuild that team and rebuild the identity that they have as a team.
By the way, if I don't at least touch on some of what happened last year, this show might last 6 minutes. So you have to indulge me a little bit. But we'll focus on...
We can talk more than that.
Okay. 6 minutes, 7? I can filibuster pretty well.
Ask Harper. She could talk for that long.
Oh, I bet she does. She's at that age now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One guy among your 16 starters back is Haynes King. I know Georgia Tech fans really excited about what Haynes' second year in a Georgia Tech uniform will look like.
So am I.
I know. You said he could be as underrated a quarterback nationally, and I forget on which program, but you said he doesn't get near enough talk for what he has done. Where have you seen Haynes take that next step in becoming a more polished QB for you?
Yeah, I mean, I firmly believe he's the best quarterback in the league, and by the end of the season, it's everyone around that position that has to support him. All right, you can't just look at the quarterback. And if you want to talk about what the improvement in the quarterback is, me and him, we meet once a week on Monday and just really talk about everything from football to life to the team, school, all things. And the big point to him was, last year, if things weren't going well, everyone looked at him of Haynes make a play. Now this year, we don't want that to be the case. We don't want it to be everyone has to look at him to make a play. That's a lot of pressure on a young man. All right, now he loves it. He likes being in that position, but sometimes you need to be able to have the other people around you take up the slack at times. And that's where I feel we are as a program now. We've got other people around him, both sides of the football, that can take up that slack.
What is something about Haynes that you feel goes underappreciated in him or unsung? Talking about someone who doesn't get nearly enough talk.
Say it again.
Something underappreciated or unsung about Haynes King that maybe as coaches you appreciate on a little more granular level than somebody who just might be watching on television, listening on the radio, that really, as a coach, you truly appreciate about the way he conducts an offense.
To sum up Haynes in one little story, I think going into the bowl game last year, he had a chance to break 4 all-time Georgia Tech passing records. All right, it was 3 or 4. I mean, it was held by Joe Hamilton and George Godsey, the records. And at the end of the game, we ran the football 27 straight times to close out the game. And he was telling Buster upstairs, run it again, because he knew that was the way to finish the game and the way to win. So just the unselfishness that he has really and puts the team first in everything. So you don't see a lot of guys nowadays that would have done that.
Yeah, it was a breakout debut season for Haynes King, but like you said, certainly not the only familiar face back in white and gold this year. You do have a new defensive coordinator. You welcomed in Tyler Santucci from Duke, where last year he led a Blue Devils defense that was number 1 in the ACC in scoring defense. They were top 50 nationally in 8 other defensive categories. You said it was a no-brainer. He was the first person you talked to fill that position. What was it about Tyler's philosophy, his scheme defensively, that appealed to you?
So as the season goes, we always track statistics across the country. And Pat Boyle, who does research and analytics and whatnot for the program, as the season came to the end, you started looking at the stats across the board, and teams that would be considered outliers. And Duke kept showing up in all these categories, and talked to one person who talked to me about him, and so we got on the phone call, and we talked for about an hour and a half. And then he said, I'm actually going to be in Atlanta recruiting on Friday. And I think at that time the coach had left and gone to A&M, and that was there, and we got together, and really, we talked ball a little bit, but we talked just life and personality, and what makes him tick and not tick, and all different things. And we looked down an hour and a half later and said, we got to start talking some ball here. And we got into that, but it was right away it was an instant connect there. And as I continued to go through the process, I think we ended up talking about 12 guys for that position. And there was a point in that time I didn't think I was going to be able to get him here. I didn't. He had some other opportunities, really good opportunities to go. But I think the final thing that really connected with me was he loves to coach the types of kids that we have here. All right, he's been at Notre Dame, he's been at Duke, he's been at Wake, he's been at those schools, and that's what he likes, and that's what he wanted. And when he looked at me and said that he thinks that Georgia Tech can be the top football school in the country that has academic background behind it, and this is where he wanted to be. That really that meant a lot to me, that he recognized both sides of it, but also that he knew how to operate within that environment.
I know hearing that makes a lot of Georgia Tech fans happy as well. He'll make his debut on Saturday. So will a lot of others for the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. Your Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets at number 10 Florida State, 5 p.m. Tomies Leather on Saturday. Can't wait to kick off his 2024 season with you. We are kicking it off tonight here at New Realm Brewing Company on the East Side Beltline. It's the debut edition of the Brent Key Coaches Show. We'll take our first time out. Much more to come. Stay with us on the Georgia Tech Sports Network. Number 10 Florida State. I know you hear number 10, but do know the man to my left, Brent Key, against ranked ACC opponents in his head coaching career at Georgia Tech. 4 wins, 0 losses. And we look forward to making that record 5-0 come Saturday night. It is pretty rare, Coach, when the most popular, sought-after player for interviews on a game week is the punter. But I think we can make an exception this week for David Shanahan, your native of Castle Island, County Kerry, Ireland, who gets a homecoming game. You said at your press conference he's been trying to teach you some Irish slang so you can sound like a local once you arrive in Dublin?
Yeah, and it's not... So I started looking him up, and it's like talking about pigs flying, and so I know he's like pulling my chain, so I'm not going to listen to anything he says. So.
Did he give you like, what's the crack?
No.
That's a very popular one.
Seriously, it's something about pigs flying.
Okay. I got to do a Google search during the timeout here.
Yeah, I don't...
Well, I mean, for him, though, when he signed here at Georgia Tech, the contract had not been signed yet. for this game. So I can only imagine his reaction when he found out that to begin his senior year, he'd be going back home 3 hours outside of Castle Island to play in Dublin. I know you've shared some conversations with David all throughout the offseason. First off, he's just an uproariously funny guy, has that classic Irish wit. But the conversations you've had with David about this game and his excitement, can you share a little bit of what you've learned from David about where his head is at heading home?
Yeah, I think the first thing about David, he's in a really good place as a kicker right now. He's been kicking the ball well. I don't want to get him out of that routine and make one game really overshadow another game and get him out of his element of what he's got to go there and do. And so really I have not talked about it with him in the last 5 weeks. But I know since the game was announced a year and a half ago, I mean, he's been so excited, and he took some guys over there to see where he's from. I know he's got probably 100+ family members going to be at the game. So and he's had a really good camp so far, and looking for him to have a good game on Saturday.
If you want to commit petty larceny in Castle Island, County Kerry, do so on Saturday, because evidently nobody in town will be left. They'll all be at Aviva Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, how many people live there?
I looked it up in the off season. It's like 3,000.
Okay,
a bit of a smaller town. Yeah. I would say Romello Height is also making a homecoming to Dublin, but your new rush end, he's from Dublin, Georgia. So I hope he has gotten the memo. He's actually going to the Ireland version of Dublin. We'll ask about Romello, by the way. That's called teasing what's ahead. Which players have asserted themselves and assumed more of a leadership mantle going into this season?
Obviously Haynes is as good of a leader at that position as I've been around. I mean, the ability to connect with both sides of the football, everybody in the locker room. He does a tremendous job, and that's part of the territory with being a quarterback. And the separate the really good ones from the great ones are their ability to have everyone else rise up and play around them. It takes the pressure off them, like we were talking about earlier. Other guys, I think Kyle Eford's done a tremendous job. Clayton Powell-Lee, Weston Franklin. Then there's other guys. I mean, some of the newer guys. Warren Burrell. Warren has really done a nice job on the back end. In the back end of affecting the other ones. He's really taken Amari Harvey under his wing, Rodney Shelley, those guys under his wing, and really shown them and taught them how to be a vet, and impacted them in a really good way. I think Keelan Rutledge is a guy that just plays the game the right way up front.
You said he was like a throwback offensive lineman.
Yeah.
He'll be your starting right guard on Saturday. Your transfer from Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, Red is he got hurt and he had a car wreck in January and got hurt, so he missed spring ball. But he's somebody that he wants to hit people, hit them, play through the echo of the whistle. I think he's fun to watch, so it's good to have him there. And another guy that's really done a tremendous job. We were talking about David earlier. Aiden Burr has really done a nice job as a leader on the team, and you don't see that a lot coming from that position. But he's not afraid to speak up, not afraid to motivate people. And then the other one probably comes to mind is Brett Seiler. Brett's done a really good job, even with him getting hurt. I mean, Brett's done an outstanding job of being a leader.
Yeah, I know you to deliver the unfortunate news that Brett will miss this season after suffering a knee injury during camp. We certainly send our best to him. You'd mentioned Weston Franklin. You'd mentioned Keelan Rutledge. You got 4 offensive line starters coming back, which is part of the reason why there is so much optimism about how potent your offense can be. You're an offensive line guy, dyed in the wool. How much will it boil down to the offensive line setting the tone for what this offense can do this year?
Yeah, I mean, it starts up front. Just being able to establish the running game, being able to protect the quarterback, put everybody on the same page. We've got experience there. But I think the cool thing about this, it's a little bit of a different situation in that we've got some young guys that are really, really good players. They've really been pushing those guys for playing time, and I think we've got 2 or 3 freshmen in the 2 deep now that are going to get valuable playing time this year, and they're ready to. They deserve it. They've earned that right to do it. So it does start up front, but early first game in the year, it's interesting to see how that dynamic works, how the chemistry's working. as practice has gone this preseason, I think the best thing that the offensive line has been able to do is go against our defensive line every day. And the increased depth and personnel and coaching and teaching that we've had there. So they've had good competition really for 4 weeks now.
Jeep said earlier this preseason, your offensive line coach, Jeep Wade, that it wasn't until maybe 7-8 games into last season where he felt his offensive line really embraced its identity, and then the results showed for themselves on the field. Did you sense that beginning this preseason, that offensive line immediately knew who they were, and that's enabled Buster Faulkner to, be a little more creative, be a little more diverse, dynamic in what he could call and what he can dial up compared to last year?
Yeah, the confidence they've had as a group really it was a continuation from last season throughout the offseason. But like I said, early on in preseason camp, I mean, these guys, they got punched in the mouth. The defensive line got after them pretty good, and that's not necessarily a bad thing for the offense. It's a really good thing for the defense. So to have that type of competition, but with those guys back, the key pieces that really are an extension of the offensive line are the tight ends and what they can do in the run game. And that was a big addition to get Jackson Hawes, Rylan Godey. We've got
Josh Beetham as well.
Josh Beetham. So we got 3 guys there. We've moved Avery Boyd. At the beginning of the year, we moved Avery into there, added a different dynamic, and then Luke Harpering, David Prince. So we've got a full room there, even though we've had injuries. But those guys being able to establish the line of scrimmage as well allow us to do a lot of things.
Because you mentioned him before the break, Jackson Hawes, Avery Boyd are listed as your starters at tight end for the Florida State game. Hawes, 6'5", 260. He was all Ivy League at Yale. What stood out when you evaluated him in the transfer portal? What can make him an asset in this offense?
Well, we had a need for one. Those guys are hard to find. 6'5", 260 plus. I think it's 265 right now. That can block. They can establish the C area and own that. But also be effective in the passing game with the boot game, the play action game, effective in the red zone, guys like that. And when you saw him and you watched the way he played the game, and I knew a coach that was at Yale, the offensive coordinator, and he called about him and said that he was out of eligibility in the Ivies because of the way they do things, and he thought he was a big time tight end, and he was what the type of tight end that we needed here. And we put the tape on, and we're like, whoa! I mean, this guy's really good. And the cool thing about him is, I mean, he's going to have I think he'll have a chance to play football for a long time. But when he's done, he's got he's been to school at Yale and Georgia Tech, and he's already said he's going to be an investment banker. So he's got his path pretty well set for himself.
I'll probably need to get his business card before the end of the season. Do. And the irony is, if he and the tight ends and your offensive line do their job, David Shanahan in his homecoming to Ireland won't even see the field. That is a punt game from the Irishman David Shanahan on Saturday. That
is the one thing that I told him about his trip home. I hope none of his family members see him play.
Yeah,
but he's a holder. He's the holder.
That is true, yeah. Now, hopefully we'll just get some cardio in pregame and then watch a good game like the rest of us at Aviva Stadium. And again, Tommy's Leather at 5 o'clock this Saturday for your Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. We'll take another quick timeout. First, want to remind you, New Realm Brewing Company, Atlanta's favorite restaurant and brewery. And we are tonight live at New Realm Brewing on the east side Beltline of Atlanta for the Brent Key Coaches Show on the Georgia Tech Sports Network. Together in tech innovation and progress with the new EV plant in Georgia, Hyundai looks forward to growing ties with the Institute and the community. Together, we're building the future of technology right here in Georgia. Hyundai and Georgia Tech, it's our journey. Big thanks to all of you coming out tonight, packing this rooftop here at New Realm Brewing Company on the east side Beltline for our debut edition of the Brent Key Coaches Show. The Georgia Tech Alumni Association, by the way, wants me to remind you that if you're not joining us at Aviva Stadium in Dublin this Saturday, they are hosting a Georgia Tech watch party right here at New Realm on the east side Beltline. So if you're enjoying it tonight, enjoy the atmosphere on Saturday. Come right back here for the Georgia Tech Alumni Association watch party as your Yellow Jackets take on Florida State at 5 p.m. Eastern. Coach, I know the team leaves across the Atlantic tomorrow. Can you give some insight into the team's schedule in Ireland once they arrive?
Yeah, we'll get there and really normal Thursday, normal Friday, and then game day. So we'll land and you go straight to the hotel, have breakfast. They'll set their bags down. After breakfast, they'll go into offense, defense, or special teams meetings first, and special teams, and then go OD meetings for 55 minutes. And from there, we'll go to the practice field. We'll practice for about an hour and a half, and from there, come back. We'll have staff meeting. Then we'll have coordinator meeting. Then we'll have dinner. Then probably go to bed.
Probably.
Then the next day we'll get up. We'll have meetings. We'll go to practice. Then we'll come back and they'll be in the hotel for their downtime on a Friday before a game. And then we'll have dinner that night and then meetings and walkthrough. Devotional. Staff meeting. Then wake up and game day.
Hope your players pack their international adapters, by the way.
Todd McCarthy, I think, gave them one or two.
I hope so, because that could be a lot of EA Sports college football that's going unplayed when they're hanging out in the hotel if they don't have the adapter.
Yeah, people ask about making the adjustment and the change.
Yeah, with the sleep and everything else, yeah.
I said it today at the press conference. I said, these guys are 20 years old. They're 18, 20, 22 years old. They stay up all night playing video games since it came out and then come and practice all day and go to school. So, we don't need to make more of it than it is, really.
Boy, youth is wasted on the young, is it not? You can just do that and be fresh as a daisy, go through a full practice, be ready to go on Saturday. It must be nice.
Sun still comes up, sun goes down. It's not a lot different than going East Coast, West Coast.
You keep some pretty rigorous hours yourself.
Nah.
Really? You're going to put that on the record? That's dangerous right there.
Not at all.
One of the changes in college football this year is the introduction of the in-helmet communications. How long did it take for the coaches and maybe more specifically the guys who will have that in-helmet communication to be comfortable with it? I know you started working with it back in the spring.
Yeah, so it was one of those things that we talked a lot about. We went through all the different scenarios with it. Still, obviously, we got to go through a true game day, but we've had now 6 scrimmages from spring until now using it. We've got really the kinks worked out. And there really hasn't been any. It's been pretty smooth. We've cranked the noise up in the stadium as loud as it can go, and still been able to hear and communicate. And look, you still have to have other ways of going about it, because if for whatever reason the communication signals go down for one team, they're shut off for both teams. So you still have to have other ways to be able to communicate the play in. So I think it's going to lead to a cleaner game. I think it's going to lead to less people sign stealing and trying to, have an unfair advantage. But I think that from the defensive standpoint, is what I've seen is all the offenses, including ourselves, when we play with tempo and try to play fast, and but what you're seeing, you're not seeing defenses out of place. You're not seeing them misaligned because it's coming in so fast. They're getting the call. They're able to get it communicated. So it's. I think you're going to see a cleaner game, a smoother game.
Yeah, people are rightfully focusing on the in-helmet communications for the quarterbacks, but that's the other part of it. There's in-helmet communication for the defense as well.
Yeah, that's whether it's a linebacker or a safety, whoever you choose to wear the singular earpiece. They're getting those calls and getting them singled in just as quick as the offense is, if not quicker. As soon as you're able to see a formation and you can call from upstairs. So whether it's upstairs, downstairs, it's going to be a smoother process, and I think the game's going to be cleaner. I really do. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch.
Is who will have the helmet come on defense? Is that classified? Can you share that?
So actually, when I get back to the office, there's 10. They're green dots. So the helmet will have a green dot on it. And you're able to put 5 on offense, 5 on defense, right? But only one guy can be on the field at the same time, right? It'd be a game violation if you have more than one. So the thing, and for people that watch games, if you ever see 2 guys on a field, all right, and both of them are covering up the ear holes in their helmet, the team's cheating and they got 2 people in it.
Okay.
So. But no, there's one on each side of the ball. that'll wear it. Obviously, the quarterback will on offense, and then, like I said, whether it's a linebacker, whether it's a safety, it's probably going to be somebody up the middle.
Up the middle. Gotcha. As far as the identity of that person, though, we'll keep that a secret until Saturday?
I mean, yeah.
Okay. Just figured I'd ask. Doing my journalistic duty.
I'm sure you can narrow it down pretty quickly.
Probably, yeah. I will ask you a question with no segue whatsoever intended about Kyle Eford, since he's one of those up-the-middle guys, linebacker.
Smart guy.
Yeah. Kyle Eford, by the way, became the first freshman to lead Georgia Tech in tackles outright last season since 1999. People loved the neck roll. They loved that he kind of carried himself like a throwback linebacker, and he was not afraid to get his nose in there and be physical as well. Where is that next step in Kyle Eford's development to make him now an all-ACC caliber linebacker?
Yeah, I mean, he's such a football player, and that's probably the best compliment I can give Kyle. But his leadership, his ability to affect others, the way he plays the game, he is. Obviously, people know when we practice, we have a lot of contact, and scrimmages are live. I mean, we had a couple scrimmages, 160-plus plays, but when we're not in full live to the ground and we're in the flood, I mean, he tries to run through people. He's really comfortable in the defense and making the calls and the adjustments. The impact and the effect he's had on Trinelius Tatum. Holy cow! I talked to Trent for a long time today, and Trent's the best version of himself he's ever been, and a lot of that, you probably split it down the middle between Tyler and between Kyle. Tooch and Kyle, what they've been able to do to impact Trent and him in a good place. I mean, he's 220-plus pounds. I mean, it's such a good version. It's so good to see that, but it's awesome to see the impact. I mean, I've had guys come in the office at times that were struggling with something, and they say, if it weren't for Kyle, I wouldn't even be able to still, be going through with what I do every day. I mean, just, he just is such a. I mean, he's Sunday nights. He's at FCA. He's the first one in there. He's in the front row. Just all around, what a great kid he is.
Great kid and a really ferocious linebacker on top of that. Kyle Pope is one of your new defensive coaches. Also, Jess Simpson is your new defensive line coach. A very familiar name to those who follow Georgia high school football. Won, I think it was 7 state titles at Buford. And you said he's the best defensive line coach in the country. How has he helped elevate the competitive consistency of that defensive line room?
Well, first, the combination of Jess and Pope it's outstanding. Just the way those two complement each other, not just on the field coaching and teaching, but in the recruiting trail, the way they're able to complement each other. But Jess is hands down the best teacher of the game that I've been around on that side of the ball at that position. The way he's able to break it down with those guys, he's able to coach them hard but not degrading. He demands perfection out of them at a position that's never going to be perfect. He has deep relationships with these guys where they want to go and sit in his office and hang out to be around him, to soak up the knowledge that he has. And he's done it at every level and been successful at every level. And storied high school career as a high school coach, on to the NFL and the college ranks, back to the NFL. Just the amount of players he's coached and the players that come back and want to be around him, and really been pleased with Jess, and glad that Jess is part of the program.
Yeah, a lot of credibility in his resume, and you fortified your defensive line group in the offseason. You not only have Zeke Biggers back, and he could be bidding for an all-ACC season again. It was honorable mention last season. You got Micaiah Scott back. Horace Lockett is back. You brought in Thomas Gore out of the transfer portal, spent last season at Miami. Prior to that was all Sun Belt at Georgia State, just down the road. Jordan Vandenberg, another guy I know you're high on, your defensive tackle from Penn State. And Jason Moore is also back. So certainly some good defensive line depth, and as you alluded to earlier, making it rough sometimes on that offensive line when you go one-on-one, ones versus ones in practice. But, of course, that all sets the table for Saturday when we get to hit somebody in another uniform and in another color. And for Georgia Tech, that will be number 10, Florida State. 5th time in the last 6 seasons, Georgia Tech will open a year with a conference opponent as they look to vanquish the number 10 Seminoles at Aviva Stadium and the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. Our network airtime will be 3 o'clock on the Georgia Tech Sports Network. Can't believe we're nearly 40 minutes into the show, and we still have not really delved yet into your All-ACC running back, Jamal Haynes. We will do that, though, to begin our next segment. Do want to remind you first, Aero Exterminator, a proud presenting sponsor of Georgia Tech football. Aero Exterminator is going beyond the call. We are live tonight at New Realm Brewing on the Eastside Belt, live in Atlanta. Much more to come here on the Brent Key Coaches Show on the Georgia Tech Sports Network. Edition of the Brent Key Coaches Show live tonight from New Realm Brewing Company on the Eastside Belt line of Atlanta. Next time we will visit with you is in Dublin, Ireland, in the Aer Lingus College Football Classic Saturday. Your Yellow Jackets versus Florida State, 5 o'clock, Tome East Leather. That is Atlanta time. As Georgia Tech will look to win a season opener for the first time since Florida State back in 2020. By the way, good to see so many of you here at New Realm enjoying the Hell of Vienna Lager, the Ale of an Engineer. Clearly, Coach getting their practice reps in for making that trip to Dublin, Ireland. So I like the thought process of a lot of the folks here up on the rooftop. If there is one person who deserves a beer or 3 on your staff, it's got to be your Director of Football Operations, Josh Thompson, who has been the main logistics leader in helping you guys get set for the next several days in Dublin, Ireland.
Yeah, Josh Thompson is what he's done the last really year preparing for this. I mean, and so many in the administration, that have gone to so many lengths to make this a trip. But what Josh has been able to do within the football program to keep this off of my plate and to allow me to focus on what's important in coaching and the recruiting and the development of these players and the coaches, it's really no different than a normal opening week. Opening week, there's always things you're checking, double checking, and triple checking to make sure you have all the right things in line. The charts, the reports. And then, there's a couple of rule changes this year within the game with the clock management. So we, adjusting some of the charts we carry on the sideline and those things. And Josh has allowed us to be able to do that no different than any other game.
Yeah, your operations staff, your equipment staff, your nutrition staff. It's like a bowl trip, except there's an ocean between you and
it's not like a bowl trip. It's not like a bowl trip at all.
Well, in that you're sort of relocating everything to another city for a set period of time. But yeah, it's like a bowl trip, and then it's nothing like a bowl trip.
It's 24 hours longer than a regular away game.
I guess when you look at it like that, it is.
We fly there, we wake up, and we land and wake up.
Yeah.
We eat breakfast, we go to meetings, we go to practice. I don't get it.
I'm thinking more from the logistics standpoint.
You speak English?
Logistics. You went to Georgia Tech.
They put stuff on the plane.
Yeah, they
just like if we go to Miami or Raleigh or
a few other things as well.
No, Jamal. What's great about Jamal is it really putting it all together with Jamal, with the offense, with the way Buster calls the game, the way it's put together through the week. We have so many different guys on offense we're able to get the ball to, right? And every play has different outlets, different options. But we also build in certain touches for certain guys. Certain guys we know we need to get the ball. Right? So when we know we have those certain plays we want to get them the ball, right? They're specifically designed for them. We put them in position that it's hard to take them out of the game. But then, look, if the ball's not going to Jamal and different things, whether it could be a run, whether it's an add-on, a bubble, a screen, an RPO, whatever it is, or you're faking it to him for a play action, or he's involved in the passing game. I mean, but the other guys at that position have also been able to do those things, and that's where we've elevated those guys to all be able to have that versatility and able to have versatility in an offense or defense. You got to have knowledge, and you got to be knowledge of the full thing, not just your position. So Jamal's really set the bar with that. and the other guys behind him have really followed suit and allowed us to have a lot of options on offense.
Yeah, you had depth in that backfield last year. Now, you do lose a 1,500-yard career rusher in Dante Smith, but what have you seen from the rest of your running backs, your Trey Cooley's, your Evan Dickinses, your Anthony Carey's, your Chad Alexanders that can complement Jamal and make sure that even if number 11 is off the field, that running game can be just as efficient?
Yeah, well, you talked about the O-line earlier. That starts with the guys up front. Some guys might get, explosive runs after they get through the first wave. Some guys might, get what's there. The 4 yards, the 5 yards, 3 yards, whatever it is. All right, but as long as we can stay efficient in the run game, as long as we stay, moving the chains, and the offensive line can, get the running back through the line, all right, and they can read their keys and do the things the right way. But the biggest thing for the running back position, in my opinion, number one, hands down, is ball security. Right, we've got to maintain possession of the football. Right. Second thing is pass protection. Right, and it's not, we're not going to sit there and drop back pass 50 times in a game. All right, but we have a lot of different variety of ways we push the ball down the field, whether it's play action, whether it's different RPOs, and those guys are factors in that. So they've got to be able to protect and as well, just as much as an offensive lineman. If they're protecting a backer blitzing up the middle, they're like an offensive guard. If they're protecting on the edge, they're like an offensive tackle at times. So, the ball security and the protection really, because that's the key to maintaining possession of the ball, obviously. All right. Converting on third down, getting explosives. So they got to possess all those talents.
Yeah, a lot that you put on the plate of your running back. We'll be facing a pretty stingy Florida State defense, at least last year. Coming up on the other side of the break, we'll start to break down Georgia Tech's opponent this Saturday in the Seminoles. Georgia Tech versus FSU, Aviva Stadium. Tome East Leather, 5 o'clock on Saturday in the Air Lingus College Football Classic. We'll hit our final timeout. We'll wrap up with head coach Brent Key in just a moment. It is the Brent Key Coaches Show right here on the Georgia Tech Sports Network. If you're not there with us, we know we will hear you right here in Atlanta for Georgia Tech and Florida State. The 2024 season opener. I think I had it flipped around a couple of times here in the show. I don't want to lead anybody astray because I've been switching between Dublin time and Atlanta time in my mind all week long.
Didn't you say 3 o'clock, though?
No, don't put words in my mouth here. I said 3 o'clock for the airtime of our pregame show, which would be 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock Dublin time pregame. 5 o'clock Tome East Leather in Dublin, which means noon kickoff in Atlanta. For the record, I don't need any angry emails that begin bkey@athletics.gatech.edu. Okay, let's talk about Florida State.
Believe me, I don't read them.
I know. Well, you'd be sending them, but I wouldn't be reading them either. They go straight to my spam.
That is my spam box.
Oh, it is? That's nice. I like that. One of these days I'll get the actual email.
Nah.
No? You going to keep that close?
It's
like the Pentagon with you.
No, it's not. You got my... you want... No, go ahead.
Never mind. How about we talk about Florida State? I know you've been deep in the preparation for the Seminoles, allegedly, hopefully. I think you are. Very familiar guy at quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei. Spent his first couple of years at Clemson, then kind of rediscovered his mojo out west at Oregon State last year. How does he come back from Oregon State, maybe a better quarterback than when Tech fans saw him at Clemson?
Oh, I was going to say by a plane, probably. But,
yeah, well.
I don't know. I mean, I don't. What
makes him a tough quarterback to account for?
Well, he's big, he's strong.
Yeah.
He has the ability. Yeah, that's a better question. Because otherwise, you're asking hypotheticals. I don't know how he's going to do this year. I hope.
Head coach, part-time journalism professor.
No, he's done both. He's shown the ability to run the football, whether it's and more designed quarterback runs. He's a big, strong guy, and and then he's got a really good arm. He can push the ball down the field. I think we know what to expect from those guys and the game plan that Mike's going to put together offensively for them. But he poses challenges. He's a big, strong guy. He's tough to bring down. Especially you start getting into those short yardage situations. The 3rd and 2s, 3rd and 1s, the downs where you want to keep the chains moving. He's able to do that with his feet, or also, same thing. You say the 2nd and 1s. able to take your shots and push the ball down the field. And Mike's an aggressive play caller in terms of 4-down territories, going for it on 4th down. So when you have a quarterback like that, it really it helps you in your play calling by your field position zones and what you're doing. So it'll be a challenge for us.
I know they have to replace 7 starters on defense, very aggressive in the transfer portal, but defense is still in the DNA of Florida State. Last year, 4th in the nation in sacks. What accounts for those numbers? What we have to be aware of on Saturday?
Well, starts up front with those guys on the D-line. They've got two really good inside guys, defensive tackles. They're big body, run stopping, push the pocket type guys. And then guys on the edge, they've got number 11 who's a really good football player. And, he's got the ability to really rush the passer, get after the quarterback, to pursue guys, chase them down, run them down. And then they've got to transfer on the other side. So,
yeah, it'll be a challenge, but I think Florida State knows the challenge that awaits them as well on Saturday. And with that, we'll wrap up our first edition of the Brent Key Coaches Show. Brent, appreciate it. Thank you.
Go Jackets.
He's Brent. I'm Andy. We'll talk to you next week on the Georgia Tech Sports Network.